Okay, we have mac and cheese on the menu. I need some hot sauce. I like my mac and cheese with a little bit of spice. If you've never had mac and cheese with hot sauce, like I don't even know what to say. I don't know if we can be friends. I don't know if we can be friends. Like, oh my God. Oh yeah.
What's for dinner?
Hey everyone, I'm Chef Z and welcome back to another exciting episode of Chef Z Cooks, where today I am sharing a long-awaited updated recipe on how to make my creamy mac and cheese. Now hear me out. That first recipe that I shared so many years ago is still a banger. It's still so good. So definitely give it a try if you haven't already. Now mac and cheese is one of those things that I am known for in my family. It's also a dish that I can make with my eyes closed, and I've actually changed it a couple of different ways over the last couple of years, but a few things have also stayed the same. Now one thing that has stayed the same is the elbow pasta. You already know this is my favorite type of pasta to use when making mac and cheese, especially the elbows with the ridges on them, because it holds on to that creamy cheesy sauce so good. Now, mac and cheese is super personal, and one of the ways that you can customize it and personalize it is by using your favorite blend of cheeses. Keep in mind that might be different for you than it is for me, but for me, that's gonna be some extra sharp cheddar cheese, yellow, and some Vermont style extra sharp white cheddar cheese, which by the way is actually my favorite cheese of the whole entire bunch. I also like to include some Fontina cheese because it melts so beautifully and it actually has some really nice subtle flavor. And the fourth and final cheese that I love adding to the mix is actually some American cheese because it is so creamy and it really pulls all of these cheeses together. Bonus if you can get it freshly sliced at your local deli shop. Now in the mac and cheese community, the toppings of your mac and cheese is so like, people get really passionate, and I have to say I'm super passionate about a breadcrumb topping. I just love that crispy, crunchy bit, and as a matter of fact, I'm gonna be sharing a hack on how to get it crispy each and every single time. I don't know about you guys, I'm hungry, so let's go ahead and jump right into the recipe.
This creamy mac and cheese is honestly one of the favorite things that my family loves that I make all the time, either for holidays or family parties, and I'm so excited to share my updated recipe. Now, whenever it comes to making creamy mac and cheese, prep work is honestly the key to success, and what I like to do is first grease my baking dish just with a little bit of butter. I actually don't like to overdo it because I don't want my mac and cheese to come out greasy. I then set that off to the side, and one of the most important parts about making a really good mac and cheese is actually shredding the cheese yourself. Now hear me out. I know that the pre-shredded cheese makes things go really fast, but it actually doesn't melt all that smoothly. And one of my biggest keys to success with making the mac and cheese is shredding the cheese myself, but using my Ninja blender and food processor to do it, because as you can see right here, it makes this go so fast. It actually comes with a blade attachment to shred the cheese, and I honestly shred the cheese in under 5 minutes. If you guys are interested in my Ninja blender and food processor and the attachments that I use, I'll link it down below in the description box. Now, because I'm shredding a bunch of different cheeses, I then like to go in and make sure just to kind of mix it all together so that when it melts evenly. Now for me, one of my favorite parts about mac and cheese is actually the breadcrumb topping, and I like to toast it separately because that ensures that the breadcrumb topping comes out crispy each and every single time. All you need is a non-stick pan. You want to toast it on medium flame for about 5 minutes, and you want to move it around every so often until it becomes that medium brown color that you just saw right here. Afterwards, we're going to set that off to the side, and now we're going to boil our pasta. And hear me out, generously salt the water because this is also going to add flavor into our mac and cheese. Now I am using elbow pasta, and the box says to boil it 5 to 6 minutes for al dente, and honestly I go about 3 to 4 minutes max. I like it to be a little bit harder because it is going to continue to soften and cook once we bake it. I then drain it and set that off to the side, and now we're going to start making our roux. And you really want to pay attention here because this is where things can more or less kind of go left, but I'm gonna walk you through how to make it perfectly each and every single time. So first things first, over medium heat we're going to melt our butter, and then we're going to toast our spices, and we're using some onion powder, garlic powder, powder and regular paprika. We're gonna mix that all together and then we're gonna let it toast for about 2 minutes. Afterwards, we're going to add the flour, and here is where I need you to trust the process. We're gonna mix in the flour into the melted butter, and then we're actually going to toast the flour for another 3 minutes. And once we start adding the milk, it's really important that you add room temperature milk and not ice cold milk out of the refrigerator. We're going to add it little by little, and I usually start off by using a spatula first, and then I go in and I switch to using a whisk, because this is going to really help everything incorporate. And another trick that I like to do when making a roux is that I actually like to warm up the milk, either by popping it in the microwave or warming it up on the stove and then adding it to the roux, because it really makes a difference. If you see some clumps that are forming, do not freak out. The heat and whisking it together is going to help and combine even more. Now I have a collapsible whisk that also turns into a flat whisk, and I love it because it really helps me get into the sides where sometimes the flour tends to clump up. We're now going to add the cheese, and I like to add it little by little, and I alternate by adding the shredded cheddar cheeses and the Fontina cheese and the American cheese. Now American cheese is something that you can choose to add into your mac and cheese or not. For me, it's a non-negotiable. I find that the creaminess of the mac and cheese really brings the cheese sauce together. Now when you're doing this, it's really important that you mix the cheese until it is completely incorporated before you add the next batch, and you definitely want to take your time to do this. And as you do this, you'll notice that the cheese sauce is going to thicken, and that's definitely what you want. Feel free to taste the cheese sauce and adjust it for any seasonings, whether you want it more garlicky, oniony, and really the paprika is adding more of that vibrant color. Afterwards, we're going to add our drained elbow pasta, and then we're going to mix it into the cheese sauce. And feel free to turn off the flame while you're doing this. Now this is honestly one of my favorite parts, and I can eat this whole entire pot, but luckily we still have some work to do, and we actually have to build our mac and cheese. Now one thing about mac and cheese is that it is actually going to thicken and settle as it cools down, so don't worry if you feel like the sauce is a little bit too creamy and cheesy. So we're going to take a generous spoonful of the creamy mac and cheese, and we're going to place it into our greased baking dish. And what we're going to do is that we're actually going to layer our mac and cheese, and really all you really need is about 1 to 2 layers. So you put that base layer, and then we're going to add the rest of the cheese. Now I personally only like to use about 60% of the cheese in the actual cheese sauce that we made on the stove, and then I like to use the rest and spread it throughout the mac and cheese baking dish. So we're going to create our first layer with mac and cheese, and then some more shredded cheese, and then that second layer. Now because of the size of my baking dish, honestly there was only enough for 2 layers, and that is perfect. Now you can control just how cheesy you like your mac and cheese, so if you felt like my cheese sauce was a little bit too creamy, feel free to add more extra cheese. Now my favorite part is packing that top layer with cheese and then adding those breadcrumbs over top, and just like the cheese, you can add as much or as little as you want. We're going to bake our mac and cheese at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 12 to 15 minutes until that top is super crunchy. Now, one thing about mac and cheese is that you also want to let it sit for about 10 minutes, and the longer it sits, the more it sets. But if you can't wait and you just want to dig in, go ahead and be my guest. I hope you guys really like my recipe. If you have any questions, feel free to visit my website, chefzcooks.com. Buen provecho, guys.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today and making this seriously delicious creamy mac and cheese. Now join the Chef Z family so that you don't miss out every time I post an all new video. And if you recreate this dish, feel free to tag me online. I am all over the place, and you can find me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Now, if you like what you saw here today and you can't get enough, and in fact, you want so many other yummy recipes, lucky for you, I have so many here on my channel that you can click right here.